boosting her very shortly. And before I do that, I want to make every single video I can naturally aspirated. This is a video request by you guys, and today we're going to talk about how to increase the speed, overall performance, not just horsepower, to your car. Let's go home and start talking about it. All right, we are finally home. Now let's get back on track on how to make your car go fast. So my #1 mod, if you want your car going fast, is of course telling the mind or the tune for the car to go faster. It is as simple as that. These cars out of the factory have so much potential themselves. Ford limits these cars for warranty reasons, regulations, laws, and just to make the car last longer. So Ford leaves a lot on the table to grab here. And with the tuner, you can unleash all of that power. Don't even think about modding your engine without getting yourself a handheld tuner. I have the SCT X4 tuner here in my hands, and this is the brains of the full car. Just do me one favor. Please data log and send your revisions to Bama, to Lito, to any tuner out there so that they can fix your car. When they send you a tune, it is not done. You have to go ahead and put in work. You have to data log your car. You have to record. You have to send them back, and they will give you around 3 to 5 revisions to get your car correct. No single car is alike. All cars are different. You will have to do it. So now that we got done talking about the best mod, the tuner, let's go ahead and talk about the second best mod. There are 3 components to an engine that gains power. For Mustangs in particular, you have your cold air intake, you have the throttle body, and then you have the intake manifold, all which control the amount of air that goes inside the car. The #2 best mod that you could go ahead and do to gain the most power is to get a cold air intake. I recommend the JLT Series 3 because that is the biggest, it gains the most power, and is just overall the best. If I were to refer a second company, definitely be the Air Raid cold air intakes, because those are also really good. So JLT and the Air Raid, definitely recommend for a cold air intake purchase. A lot of people cheap out and go down the road that benefits their wallets the most. I totally understand. I'm with you on that. But getting a cold air intake, even though it says no tune required, is going to hurt your car. All right, take this into consideration. Imagine you had the stock cold air intake. The computer knows exactly how much air to suck in. When the engine brings in the air, it also allows the right amount of fuel to get inside with that amount of air. Now picture this, put in a cold air intake that does not need a tune, most likely the K&N filters, which a lot of people do have, which is a bigger cold air intake. Bigger cold air intake, more air. So putting more air into the engine while your engine is still supplying the same amount of fuel to the smaller filter will make your car run lean. And that is not what you want, because your car is so used to adding fuel to the right amount of air. Adding more air and not correcting the fuel, which a tune will do there for you, is complete disaster. You will actually be losing horsepower if you add more air than fuel. And that is my opinion on cold air intakes with no tune. Don't think about spending $200 to $400 on a cold air intake and actually lose power. Just save up for the money, get a tune with it, and then you will see the increase of 30 horsepower, which is the biggest among all bolt-ons. All right, now that we finished with the cold air intake, we still have the throttle body and we have the intake manifold. 2 big mods that we need for air. Personally, I went to go with the intake manifold next over the throttle body just because the gains are higher with the intake manifold. Yes, there is multiple different options for intake manifolds out there. I actually kept the stock intake manifold with the Steeda charge motion control plates, which do not have the little flaps, which increases the airflow, which is going to be perfect when I install the Pro Charger Stage 2. Depending on what year your car is will depend on what intake manifolds are available, but definitely I would hit up the intake manifold next, of course, with a tune. And then last but not least, for the air factor, I would definitely increase your throttle body. I personally have the BBK 62mm throttle body air mods to the car, which brought me 70 horsepower to the wheel. The next thing that you should work on, which I really do recommend, is your exhaust. My exhaust long tube headers, Shorty X-pipe, and Roush Extremes. Essentially, it's a straight pipe, which is what you want. You want that nice flow from your engine out to your exhaust. Don't really want catalytic converter, really mufflers to stop the airflow coming out through your car. Having that straight pipe just makes things so much smoother and adds power. Now, when working with exhaust, you have your headers, which go up to about like right there, right under your feet. Then you have the mid pipe, which goes about mid car, and then you have your cat back and then your axle back. To get the most power out of your exhaust, the closest you get to your engine, the more power. So you got the headers, which gives about 10 to 15 wheel. You have the catalytic converters, which if you take those off, maybe 5 if you're lucky. And then you have everything else, which just frees up power. It doesn't really add. Moving from the front to the back is how you're gonna be making that power. Don't expect huge gains from exhaust. The biggest gains you will get is long tube headers. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about my next favorite mod that I recommend for you guys, and that is your gearing ratio. I currently have the 410 gears. They rock. If you have a Mustang that's not a 5.0, get 410 gears. Trust me, it's going to increase your torque, lower your top speed, but that's what you want when out on racing. You want to increase your speed faster, which is what the torque does. One of the things I really hate is having all the power and no control of all that power. Spinning is not winning. So let's talk about putting all of that power to the ground where it belongs. Talking about traction, which is my new favorite thing about cars, putting all your power to the wheels where it belongs instead of wheel hopping or spinning out or anything like that helps your car get off the line a lot quicker and stay up front. Personally, I have the BMR lower control arms, the BMR rear upper control arms, I have the SR Performance springs and the Coney shock, and the SR Performance Panhard bar. Those mods are incredible. That's the full setup that you could do back here. There are other upgrades like the sway bar, which I will eventually do, and I highly recommend this setup. But I know that suspension is difficult to install and kind of pricey, so if you guys are picking out and choosing which mods to go with, I would definitely go with the springs, the Panhard bar, which those are, you kind of have to get both if you're going to lower your car, and definitely the BMR lower control arms. Those mods will transform your rear suspension where all your power is going to and put it all to the wheels. Now let's go ahead and talk about wheels. So these are my old wheels. These are the 17x8 rims, 235s by 55s on, again, 17 rims. This is what I was rocking before. When I had these, I was spinning like no other. Street tires are not the best for racing and going fast. I highly recommend upgrade to a tire that can actually handle all of that power. What I am sitting on are the Lito NT 555 G2s 295s by 40 sitting on 18-inch rims. If you guys are in the department for tires, because that is a life changer, I highly recommend Lito. My second recommendation are Mickey Thompson's, as well as the Michelin Pilot Super Sport. Those are like the best. So those three, those will grip the road like no other and send you flying. Another thing I recommend you doing before going racing is heat up your tires. Just do a little burnout and then they will stick a lot better than if it's cold. Weight reductions. If you want to go fast, you have to take out all of the excess weight on your Mustang. No spare tire, you're saving yourself about 20 pounds right there. Moving inside of the interior, I took out the rear seats, put myself in a rear seat delete kit, saved myself about 30 pounds right there. Also, I know that these seats are kind of heavy as well. Plan on taking my passenger seat out next time I race just to see that difference, as well as the drive shaft on these Mustangs are pretty heavy. I also plan on switching to the aluminum or carbon fiber drive shaft. That is going to save you lots of weight, but try taking as much weight as you can from your Mustang. The next mod I want to go ahead and talk about that actually surprised me to the fullest is your shifter. Most likely your shifter is stock with those long throws. I personally have the Barton short throw shifter, which includes about a 40% less throw. Drag racing my car, I found out that every millisecond counts. Honestly, it does. Going from first, second, third to fourth can arguably add up to a quarter of a second, which is a half distance to a car. Every second counts. The last pointer I want to go ahead and mention to you is practice, practice, practice. Because practice makes perfect. Learn your car, know which RPMs to launch at, know the limits of your car, know what your car can handle, because there's no other mod better than the driver mod. That is all I have for you today, fellas. If you want your car, follow these simple steps to modding your car. So with that, I'm gonna leave you with a little downshift and